Alright guys, here is a quick little video on specifically the rear differential on the Losi SCTE. I've already rebuilt the front and centers using 5,000 weight oil versus the factory grease that they kind of load into those things. So I'm going to show you some specifics and some roadblocks I ran into on rebuilding these specific differentials, and hopefully this helps you in rebuilding yours. So I'm going to show you some specific things right now, and this has to do obviously with the rear. The rear is a little bit different on the SCTE. It does use a offset rear drive shaft, so it looks a little bit different than most differentials out there. So let's take a look at some of the specifics and we'll go from there. So basically on the front and rear, you definitely have to remove a lot of stuff to get that rear housing off. The front is a little bit more complicated because you do have to deal with some of the steering linkages and that top brace and some of the other stuff. But on the rear, pretty much you do have to remove the whole rear bumper assembly, the rear suspension pin holder, rear drive shaft. I just pulled it off just to get it out of the way. There's my skid plate. That may not be on yours. You do have to remove the sway bar little holders there, the four bolts that go up underneath the chassis, so on and so forth. It's pretty self-explanatory once you get into it. So as far as the differentials, they went together pretty easy. The little cross pins are a little bit tricky to get everything all lined up. It does come with little blocks and also little spacers in there, so make sure you get all of that stuff in there pretty good. This is the rear, and I've got it all greased up, kind of all re-put back together, and it does have these little kind of collars that ride on there, and you'll also see that I've already put on the lightened drive out drives for actually all three differentials. So that's kind of the other reason why I did go ahead and replace all the oil at this time. So I didn't have too much wear on the stock ones, but I definitely wanted to replace those out. Heard a lot of people having trouble with them, so went ahead and replaced those. So just to give you guys some comparison, here is a regular stock outdrive, and then of course the lightened ones are just basically cut out. And they also use a hardened steel versus, I guess, somewhat of an alloy steel. So let's throw this over here now. As far as screws, big issue out there in some of the forums. Even Chris Atterbury had an issue with his SCTE and the screws that were on the differentials holding everything together. And there's basically 4 screws, and they're in a cross pattern right there. They are specifically, and there's a lot of people out there saying slightly different things, but they're 2.5 millimeter threads. They use a 1/16 drive hex driver, and they are 10 millimeters long. So, and I measured that up with my calipers, and it was basically right around there. It was maybe like 2.45 was the actual diameter of the thread. So, the issue. Huge issue out there, and I noticed it more on the replacement differential housing versus the stock parts that were on my specific SCTE, that the hex heads are just a little bit loose for the 1/16 inch driver. So you end up stripping out the bolts, and not a fun thing trying to get a bolt out of a housing on a differential. So I found these things at my local shop. Of course, it is OFNA Nitro House, but it is 94046, and they're stating 2.6 millimeter by 10 millimeter. They measure right around 2.45, right in that range. So did measure those up. Pack of 4. Their retail's like $195. I think I paid like $150 or so. So ended up picking up 3 packs of those just so I have them on hand. But like I said, I noticed it more on the replacement diff housing, because I did buy up a new center diff, and that was part number LOSB 3542 was the diff housing that had those screws included. They ended up stripping out very, very easily. So that is a replacement. As far as the lightened HD out drives. There's a center one that is LOSB 3536, and the front and the rears is 3575. So just so you guys have those part numbers on hand. As far as the rest of the truck, everything is going great so far. I need to do a little bit more screw turning, get everything lined up as far as the rear diff and get that all put back together. But I should be out testing out the diff oils on Thursday, and I will definitely tell you guys how it worked with the 553 that I'm running right now. So that's it for now, guys. Any questions, throw them on down below. As always, if you like the video, hit the like button and subscribe. I do many updates throughout the week. That's it for now, guys. Over and out.